Unless talking about other people. Hi.
So I had okay, so I don't remember either of my dreams, but it was interesting because in my dream I woke up, and even in waking up in my dream, I'm like, I don't remember my dream. But then I wasn't sure if I was supposed to go back to sleep because I realized I wasn't in my bed. And I'm like, well, I'm like, I know I'm sleeping, so am I still dreaming? Am I supposed to just continue my dream? Like, I didn't know what
Oh,
to
wow.
do. And I don't actually remember what I ended up deciding on doing. And I don't remember what happened. Like, there's like these all I kind of remember is like these bricks. And I don't know, I don't know if I was sorting them or if they meant something, but it was just all when I like look into my mind and like ask what my dream was, it's just a bunch of squares. It's
Mm.
really weird. So that's how I kind of started my day. And then the thing that kind of come up within my book club, my club, his daughter actually joined this morning, which was really nice. And it kind of goes on to our conversation yesterday about like worthiness um and how you felt like in receiving. And so I'm thinking that it may not have been sadness, but could it have been that feeling of I don't deserve this, like a lack of worthiness. So um so yeah, so I'm kind of just interested in on that.
Mm. Yeah, so it's interesting that you said that because I didn't even get a chance to talk to my husband about it. So Ashley, kind of what Laura's talking about. So we manifested like almost like $2,000 in like 3 days. And um
Yeah.
literally like my husband brought me like $800 in cash. Like, and it just happened to be brand new bills. Like, so he's, whatever, and he's like, smell this, da da. And like, so he's like counting it out, on the desk here and everything. And like out of nowhere, and it was pretty immediate. Like this overwhelming just feeling of like depression, just like boom, like just, and I was like, and I even texted Laura, I was like, okay, so we just manifested like $1,800 in 2 days, 3 days. Tell me why I'm so sad. And she was like, and it was through a series of, different things. And I was like, I don't know. And she was talking about maybe because we had like sold some furniture and that I was a little bit hesitant on selling. And then I was like, no, I kind of worked through that. And even like the woman who like bought it, like was her manifestation. I mean, she didn't speak like that, but like that's essentially what it was. And I was like, I'm happy to like be a part of that. And she's like, well, maybe you think that like you can't get another one, this and that. And I was like, maybe. And then I came to realize that because we had been living a certain lifestyle before, because when Rustin was working corporate and then I was working, like we were making like pretty good money. But we were living in that, like, oh my God, like how are we going to pay for stuff, which is like really interesting, right? And then fast forward to now, and it's like, okay, talk about not being able to pay for stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like the thing that we were living in has actually happened in the 3D, like now, you know what I mean? But it's been a year, and I was like, it's, which you don't think of a year as being that long, but in terms of impressing on the subconscious, that is plenty long enough for it to become natural now to not have money, like straight up. And so I think part of it was that, like stepping into that new identity, um, of like, okay, this is what we do, kind of thing. Cause he's like, cool. So we make $1,800 every 3 days, right? Like just, being in that kind of energy. And oh, speaking of which, there's my I don't know if you guys can see it.
Oh,
I have that's my Canva vision board that I made, but it's a my alarm. So I have it set to go off at
I love
11:11.
that it's 11:11.
Yeah, well I made
I
it.
love that it's
Yeah.
11:11 as you hold that up.
Yep. Um but so I was like, yeah, like this like new like poverty level or whatever you want to call like had become natural now. You know what I mean? And so because a lot of times people don't talk about like when you shift identities, like it's not always pretty. It's not always like woo, like leaping into the new identity, right? Like that doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes it does, and eventually you get there, but it's not always, you know like roses. Like it's not 100%. And so I sat with this and I'm like, what the hell is going on right now? Like this is just so weird. But So that's kind of a backstory, but like it was interesting because Rustin was like talking about that because he had a moment too where he's like, I didn't feel like super excited. Like he was, and he like, gave each of our boys like $20 and was like, let's go get ice cream, and stuff like that. But like he's like, I had to kind of sit and like write some stuff and because I was feeling a kind of way about it too. And he was, I understood that it was like the worthiness of like, well, you deserve to be poor, you deserve to be, whatever, whatever, because you're not working like, according to society kind of thing. And he said that just this morning, interestingly enough. You brought that up, Laura. And I was like, I was like, I guess so. Like, and it's not so much like the money, like, because we were making really good money, but more of the money from working for
Money
your,
from nothing. Yeah,
like, yeah, and
money
working for
from
yourself.
nothing is what it feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, because I grew up where it's like, you have to have a job, you have to like whatever. Um, from family members, like none of my family members are entrepreneurs. None of them are, you know what I mean? So that's quote taking a chance on your dream and like all this, you know what I mean? Because we had cultivated the belief that we could work for ourselves, which is true. Small detail. We didn't add in that we could work for ourselves and make money. So,
Yeah,
right.
right.
And like a year later, I'm like, small detail, but not. So, I kind of sat with that this morning. And I wrote yesterday, like in my book, I wrote like of all that like stuff, like and how it wasn't because I mean it was immediate. Like my kids were like, "Oh, let's watch a movie, eat ice cream," and I'm like, "I don't want to watch a flipping movie. Like I have no desire to." And they ended up watching Encanto, and I like the whole time I was just like, "Bleh." Like I didn't even, you know. But so it's definitely interesting to yeah, so yeah, it's you brought up the worthiness, and I think there's so many of the elements, like the worthiness, the it's not natural, like it's uncomfortable, because people immediately think like, oh, if I have money, like yeah, I'm gonna feel comfortable. Not always, that doesn't always happen for a lot of people, and they are unaware of that. Um, like even just the thought of like, having like millions of dollars. There was a time, oh, quite a while ago that I was like, oh, that's like terrifying. Like it's scary, you know what I mean? Um,
Can
because
I
it's
ask
so
you?
different.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're
Go.
good. You're good.
I agree. There is something about that aspect of like money coming out of thin air. Whoa, I didn't deserve this. I didn't work hard for this.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yep.
sacrifice anything to receive this.
Yeah.
I'm wondering though, this is something I asked Lynn too when she was like, going through her transitioning out of her job.
Yeah.
Do you, when you had that emotion kind of like swell over you, do you think that it was because the other shoe's going to drop? Like, oh no, we have this money, but it's going to go to like whatever, flat tire. So, I don't want to,
Mm.
you know, that kind of, um, let's not get too excited because
Oh,
if we do, it's only just going to disappear again later, that
yeah.
kind of thing. Since, you were talking about how, for a whole year, it's almost like your subconscious got used to like having no money or
Yeah.
having the money not there. And so now that
Yeah.
it's here, it's like, oh, wait, that's weird. It should
Yeah.
be here. It hasn't been here
Yeah.
for so I don't know if that had come across your reflections, but I know for me that's kind of like, and I'm not trying to project, but I know that's where I found myself sometimes when I've
Mm.
when money comes out of thin air, or like I find a dollar bill on the street and I'm like, oh, okay, so I'm lucky now. Is that
Yeah. Yeah. I used to like when we worked, 9 to 5, like that's how I used to feel. Like, we'd get a bonus or something. I'm like, oh, well, it's gonna go to some. And then even I cultivated this thing of like, at least not even a belief, but it was just kind of like a natural state of like, we'd get any money and I'd be like, oh my God, it's not enough. Like I felt like I was in a sinking boat and you know what I mean? There's like holes in the boat and I'm like sitting here with like a teaspoon, like boop, you know what I mean, as it's filling up, and it's like you're never, you know what I mean. And so, we'd get like $500 or whatever, and I'm like, there's like thousands upon thousands of dollars. Like this isn't even like it's like of like never, like almost of like suffocation, of like you're never gonna get like enough. And so I had become aware of that thought because immediately when we get money, I'm like doing a rundown of like everything. And I'm like, this isn't even like a drop in the bucket. Like it's almost pointless. Like, you know what I mean at this point. And so last night I like actually noticed because my mind very kind of very faintly and without emotion or attachment was like, okay, cool. Like, what are we gonna use it for? And then, but it was very faint. And I actually noticed the absence of that whole feeling of like, oh my God, there's so much to pay. It's still not enough. You know what I mean? Like, but I noticed that there was the absence of that, which was very interesting. Um,
Mm,
and that's what, and I think that like, again, talking about death, which I know it's not like, everybody talks about it, but in The Power of Awareness, Neville Goddard, he talks about like you have to die to your former self, like straight,
right.
like that's just it.
Mhm.
Because anything else, you're still kind of hanging on. And I think that the sadness was part of that death, you know what I mean, of your former self, because as many times as I've done this, I felt like in the past it was a lot easier because it was old stuff that I didn't want to hang on to anymore. And I was like ready to like let it go. And so I was like, cool, like new identity, right? But the fact of like I literally got sick this time and like, I was sad and because I always attributed like sadness and like depression and stuff with like living in poverty, like being poor. You know what I mean? Because you don't see too many people, besides Laura and myself, that like, but that are like super like you don't, right? Because you kind of attribute the two. Mostly one comes from the other, whatever. And it's like living in the wish fulfilled. And so then you're not living in the 3D. You know what I mean? And I
Right.
think yeah, I don't know. It's just there's still more to kind of like sit with and like explore, but it's so far it's been really amazing. Like I actually had a visualization this morning. I went back, even though we're in phase 2 with Yuki's program, like I went back and I'm doing phase 1 because I feel like beliefs are everything, 100%. And I was doing his visualization and I literally was like crying in it. Um,
Mm,
so this will be my manifestation. You guys will be on call when it happens, but I literally had um the visualization that we went on one of the calls and Yuki's like, okay, do you guys have any like wins or celebrations? And I was like, yeah, I was like, I'm going to try to get this out without crying. But I was like, we are finally current for the first time in a year on our rent. And I was like, I know that's probably not a whole huge thing to most people, but I was like, for us living in that, I was like, it's huge. And I was like, and I feel for free. So I was crying on the call in my visualization and I was crying in the 3D, like straight up tears. So I'm excited.
That's amazing. That's
that's amazing.
awesome.
Yeah.
I,
Oh,
Laura, I want to say something about your dream. Um, but before I do that, Amber, I think that's amazing that you've come to the realization that this whole death and rebirth, it's you're grieving that old part of you. Like
Yeah.
that's amazing. It's like we don't have to be sad about not having anything anymore. We
Yeah.
can just be excited that it's already here and now we get to hold on to it in 3D. Like
Hmm.
you're like I feel like you're in that transition of starting to materialize things now, like boom, boom, boom. Um yeah, Laura, I'm wondering, you said you woke up in your dream, but you weren't in your bed. Do you remember where you were? And I know you saw the bricks.
it was like a factory. It was like it felt like a
A brick.
concrete building. Like what was that?
I said a brick factory.
A brick factory maybe, but it like like oh yeah, I don't know. It was like a concrete building, but they were counting squares.
Were they the squares bricks or was it separate?
Yeah. No, they're the squares, like it was a concrete building. The squares were bricks, or like
Mm,
they looked like bricks. Like I don't know that they were like a physical material of brick, but they looked like bricks.
mm,
I think this might be a representation that you're now waking up to the fact that you're building something, kind of like this thing that you and Amber started, and you're brick by brick or whatever it is, cylinder by cylinder, you're inviting people in and you're building this mastermind community
yeah.
group.
That
Yeah.
that resonates actually. That really does resonate because like honestly it felt so weird because it was so clear. And then like I've been like literally in most of the dreams like when we and Amber first started talking, like my dreams were like my guide into any information coming to me. But now my Claire audio is there, like really, really good. Like sometimes in the middle of the day, all of a sudden the song blares out in my head. And I'm like, oh, really? Okay, well, let's look that up, you know, and stuff like that. So I feel like my other gifts have come like, you know, like elevated in such a way that my dreams are no longer just that like that pivotal place of me getting the information, so they're using them in other ways now, like because I know that it felt guided and it was so clear within the space. But like I say, like when I woke up within that space of not actually being awake, the scene changed. Like it wasn't like I woke up in the space where I just was in the dream that I knew I was dreaming, but in waking up knowing that I wasn't awake because I wasn't in my bed and I didn't go to sleep in a concrete building with filled with squares. Um, so I was like, okay, so what was my last dream? Because now I'm like, well, it was so clear. So how am I not remembering like where I just came from? And and then as like I was like looking around and realizing like it's just counting bricks, counting squares, and like that's all that keeps coming to me is like I was counting bricks, and I'm like this doesn't make sense, especially like because it's all gray, and that's the other thing. Like it's super gray. Like when I'm like looking at like trying to bring myself back there, it's very gray. And in my energy work, gray is usually the color that I'm shifting for people. Like when you see your colors and when we're going through that process of looking at your energy, when the grays start to come through, that's other people's energy, that's your maybe your own um you know, limiting beliefs or whatever coming through that are preventing you from actually like clearing and understanding, like especially when it's other people's energy, because it's really hard to recognize that if you've let that in your field for so long. um I know there was this one dream I actually had. I was renting a hotel and all of a sudden thousands of people came in with their tents and set up tents in my huge ass hotel room. And it wasn't like I was like trying to kick them out. And I recognized some of them. And the most interesting part for me in that one was I recognized some of them as just faces that I had crossed paths with on my day delivering food. And
Mm,
so I was like, oh, weird. So it's wintertime. And I love doing this Jose Silva meditation that's just literally the alpha and theta sounds and just going into that space and using that space to keep my mind in a clear space. Well, our diesel heater makes a similar tapping noise. And we only run it like partially through the night. So that night it got cold. Brandon woke up, turned on the heater. I didn't wake up for him to do that. But in my dream, the tapping started. And
mm,
all of the people got up and left because of this tapping. I'm like, wait, come back. I'm lonely. And I'm
mm,
like, you know, and I was like, oh, wait. Oh, you right? Like it was literally like that realization that I was still, even after all of these months, because this was only a couple months ago, I'm like, after all this time of clearing my energy and making sure that you know, I'm grounded and all of this space is mine, it was still comfortable. It was still feeling comfortable to allow the other energy into my space. And I wasn't necessarily recognizing that I was letting other people into my energy. And then, of course, Brandon had a tent in my head too, but he didn't leave. And I was like, well, that might be a problem, right? Like everybody's supposed to be leaving. Like nobody's allowed to have space in my head, like even the ones that I love. And that's been something that's been a really big part of my process is recognizing that like you can love somebody and not let them penetrate your energy field, because that energy is yours and yours alone, that you can still love them and give them their space without them actually having that spot in their head. So that was like, that opened up to me like going, oh, I'm still like running my emotions based on his emotions kind of thing. And um so like that's how clear messages come through within my dream space. So to wake up and be like, this space was all gray and it was full of bricks, but then at the same time, like when you say it in that way where you're building something, it is bringing other people's energy on purpose into my space, which would represent that grayness of the energy, but it's recognizable now that I'm allowing that space for those other people, and yes, building that area. So that definitely like resonates in a huge way, because I'm like, I was just so lost because there's literally like no clarity to what we were doing in this space, and all these
Well,
like just gray blocks.
that kind of makes sense to me because you said in your dream you saw faces of people that you actually interacted with in your waking hours, like with the tents, you know. But in this dream that you just had, nothing, it's gray. Like everything's kind of like a clean slate, and like maybe the bricks are representative of like the people you're bringing in, and they're unidentified at this point,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah,
So it's
that
just
makes
gray, you know. The energy is there, but we haven't identified like who
who
the
they
energy
are.
belongs to. Yeah. Or belongs to. Yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that makes a lot of sense. And this is why I love this space so much with you ladies, because like all like I've the the synchronicities, the similarities, the just like to live in three completely separate spaces in the
Yeah,
world, and to find your tribe on the other side of a screen that can fill in the blanks where the blanks have been left. And
yeah.
sometimes I feel like my guides are fully capable of giving me absolutely everything that I need, but
Yeah.
it also could create that companionship and
Mhm.
builds that element of friendship and support in taking that unknown and being open to ask for help and ask opinions, or just bring it up even when you feel like it's like, oh, like I'm the soul guide, so like I can't, like there comes a point where it's just like you get kind of lost in your own mind, like how am I supposed to guide others when I'm so lost sometimes guiding myself. However, that's the whole point, is having that tribe and those other people around you to elevate when your guides decide that, hey, you still need to practice friendship.
100%.
Speaking of tribe, Amber, I don't know if you'd be able to put a little plug in for Yuki. But my clients that, they have the Bengal cats, they just picked up the Bengal cats this morning. They just
Yeah,
got back from Ecuador.
that was so cool.
And it's a couple. So the guy was telling me, um, if you ever want to bring a group and have your own like retreat, we do have private retreats where it's just for people that already know each other. And
Mm.
I was like, well, if one day we can
Yeah,
all meet
right.
in person, all of us in Yuki's space from around the world, maybe we can go to Ecuador and have a nice like retreat in person. And they said it's like super like customizable. So it like doesn't have to be an ayahuasca retreat. It could just be like a whatever retreat.
Yeah.
And they have they're already like they have their own shamans like who are from Ecuador, like Ecuadorian shamans, and they have the whole setup and they have
Mm.
the location. I mean, they showed me video. It's very beautiful. Like, and
Mm.
there's other things that when they bring groups in, they can do excursions. So it's not just like you're in workshops every day, but like you can go by the waterfalls or like go hiking one day. So
Mhm.
I
That's
was
so
like, I'm going to.
Yeah, and I feel like we've had this conversation loosely on one of the calls. Were you there, Ashley? Because I know Laura, you were there. This might have been before,
I
like
don't
I
know.
feel like it was brought up, and then he was like,
Because I wanted to. He said
Uh,
that he couldn't do one in person. He said he couldn't do one in person yet because I have brought it up to him actually a couple times because I was like, well, let's take everybody to Canada. I actually have um it's called Shoot Lakes Resort, and it has like there's a space for free camping across the way, where I thought like, okay, well, I'll drive, get a bunch of tents and whatever. Or there's like and then there's a restaurant right across the road. The lake is right there. There's the hiking. I actually have a lady that is willing to come out and do like monitor like a mushroom, so not it kind of like just and that kind of stuff. So like I've also looked into like like Ecuador sounds absolutely amazing, and I'd be totally down for that because I would like to not be the responsible one sometimes. But
yeah.
at the same time, like I do want to host healing retreats, and actually like that's like my goal in all of this. Like where I was like when I was looking at what I absolutely want for myself, it's like a property where I can host comfortably within my own space a healing retreat, and start to really bring people in person and start to really elevate. So like like when how we talked last time about like if this wasn't for somebody else, because I got so tied up in like everything that I was creating, even using my gifts included. Like that changed a while ago where I was like, I want to be able to use my gifts for myself. But however, like still in building absolutely everything that I wanted to build, it's like always about like, what is it going to do for other people
Mhm.
versus what do I truly want? So I've really sat with that since then. And I really, really do want my own space where I'm comfortable, where I can have a safe space to host healing retreats for others, to bring to just elevate and create. It does smell delicious. He's making beef jerky. So rooftop beef jerky. And it's actually super delicious. And all I can smell now is smoked meat. So it smells absolutely divine. But yeah, so that's where like when I took myself back, and it's like, and then this has also come up with that worthiness. Am I worthy of having this? Even if and it even crossed my mind, like if my whole family was gone tomorrow, whatever that looks like, would I still feel worthy of the things that I'm asking for? And that is why that's why what really stepped me into, and actually I did a kind of a recode this morning with um my friends on worthiness, because and it's going to be probably this week's TikTok is like, we're called human beings because we are only supposed to be here being, learning, finding our happiness, living that joy, living like in that amazing state. So we're not called human doings for a reason. And we are worthy of being, just being.
Yeah.
So so it all kind of ties together. But no, that Ecuador one sounds absolutely amazing, and
Yeah.
I'm totally down. Whether we can convince Yuki or not, I'm sure we can get. I'm
Yeah,
sure that
let's work on both
yeah.
ends. Like we'll go regardless, but I would love it if like because I think and it was a call. I don't know if you were there, Ashley, but like and I don't even know how we got on the subject. Maybe it was something that was put in the chat or whatever. Laura,
I do remember in the chat we were
okay.
talking about it.
But
But
and he
sorry.
was like, "Oh, I'm interested," or something. And then even like other people like Tom and Sam and obviously us, and there was like other few other people that I was like, "Really?" But so yeah, like and I'll actually I'll mention it again because we have a meeting tomorrow, and I'll mention it again to him, like just throwing it out there and see what he says. Because this has been coming upon my awareness now for like over a year. There's a place in oh shoot. Is it Peru or no? I don't remember. Doesn't matter. Anyways, a friend of mine, she has been to this place and it's actually like the value is there. Like it's 100%. You can choose between like I think 7 days and like 21 days. But like literally you can like hang out with like sloths and like you're in the rainforest, like just all this stuff. And I was like, dude, that's all you had to say was like sloths and dolphins. And I was like already gonna be there. But it's really freaking cool. Again, it's not in Ecuador, it's another place, but and my friend had actually gone there and she's like, it's 100% worth it. And she told me about her experience and everything. And I was like, that's exactly what I'm looking for. And then I have a couple other friends that are interested as well.
Mhm.
And this just keeps coming up, keeps coming up. And then meeting more people that have done it, like Shannon and my other friend, and and I'm like, just keeps coming up. I was like, I'm listening. I'm listening. So yeah, I'll definitely mention it to him. One thing I did, because I actually have to run at 12 as well. I have another call. Um, it's actually from, is it from that same group that I shared with you, Ashley?
The
I think it might be, but it's a tarot mini workshop. So they
yeah,
actually like break down the cards and like all this stuff. It's pretty cool.
I
Just not
saw
fun
that.
to do.
Yeah, I
But
saw.
I finally wrote down all of the clairs yesterday because I did another like psychic. It was like a channeling practice circle thingy,
Hmm.
and she actually wrote in the chat like all of them, all 8 of them, because we're aware of like most of them. But she said one of
I
them
wrote them down recently as well. Oh,
was Claire
That's awesome.
empathy, which I didn't
yeah.
know was a thing. Claire empathy, so it's emotional feeling, so emotional feeling of others' emotions as your own.
Yeah.
Um, and then Claire Alliance, which I guess is smelling, which we know. Claire Gustance, which is tasting. I don't know if I've had that one, possibly. And then Claire Tangency, which is receiving intuitive info through touch, which is pretty
Mm.
cool. So I wrote all those down. So I guess there's like 8. But it was really, really, she took us through, it was really helpful. She took us through a couple of guided meditations. And the last one was like you go into like this round room with like all these doors. And then there's one that has like your gifts on it. And then like you literally walk through and then there's a I shouldn't say a sign. What was it that she said? Kind like a some kind of symbol or of like something that like comes through for you. And what came through for me was like kind of a greenish, bluish, yet also kind of grayish, silverish, almost orb. And I thought that was really interesting. Um,
Is that what you were talking about? You mentioned you saw an aura, like a green and blue.
this was an orb. It was like a circle, kind of like orb thing.
Yeah.
But that was when I told you the guy on the call like rose his hand and was like, "Oh, I saw a snake," and I'm like, "Of course you did. Of course you did." But yeah, so that was really interesting. And then because gray has been coming upon my awareness lately, I told you, Laura, of the thing on my phone that turned gray, and then
Mm.
your dream was gray. Um, yeah.
Very fascinating.
Yeah, it is. And it's funny because I'll tell my husband a lot of stuff and he'll be like, "What does that mean?" And I'm like, dude, like that's the next section, right? The first section is gathering all these signs and symbols and dreams and everything. And then the next thing is to figure out what the F it all means. That's I'm leaning into like having fun with it as opposed to just being annoyed as crap all the time. It like
Yeah.
awesome.
Yes, you
Now
have
what?
to have
Like,
fun, and as soon as you
yeah.
start having fun with it, that is when it actually starts to flow a lot better. And that's all the fun.
Yeah.
Fun has been coming up on my radar because like I mean, I'm like I love to hike, I love to explore, I love to
Yeah.
ride like waterside. We've been like swimming now for like months and learning how to dive, and I was just getting frustrated with it, and then I finally like stepped back and was like, you know what, I'm just going to take some time and just make this fun again, because it was like I was getting flustered and frustrated. I'm like, no, then this isn't right. Like it's about
Yeah.
having fun and finding the fun within the space, because our guides are jerks, just so everybody knows. They are absolute assholes. They torture us, and not out of like meanness, because they're having fun with us. They
Yeah.
want us to recognize the laughter behind some of the like what feels torturous to us because we're human is
Yeah.
funny to them, because they're like, no, just look at the funny side of things. Have a good laugh. Like just find the humor in what we're telling you.
Yeah.
Um, because
They like to poke
like
fun.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. We take everything so seriously. Manifestation, all of these things are easy when
Mm.
we finally start to have fun with it. When you start to enjoy it, when you stop looking at everything so heavily and literally just laugh and just have that good laugh. Napoleon Hill said that anytime that he felt frustrated, anytime that he thought nothing was going his way and he was ready to scream and freak out and be angry or sad or whatever, he would go around where nobody was watching him and he would just start laughing. And he
Mm.
said, and it would be the most fakest, weirdest sounding whatever that he would make until it was real. And then
Mhm.
once it became real, and once he was truly laughing and finding the humor in whatever situation he was dealing with, only then would he take that deep breath and go back and be like, okay, right. It was just a human experience, right? Like it was just an experience. And it's just a learning. What am I meant to take from this? And in finding it, the humor within whatever that experience was. Um,
You're
Another thing
speaking
that he
to me.
brought up was, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. I was just saying you're speaking to me. Like I keep hearing the same message, like go have fun, play, like live your life. And I've been feeling super contracted and restricted and feeling the resistance because it's like, oh, but I need money to do this or I need blah, 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 the excuses. So yeah, that's, you're speaking to me.
And the other lesson is that the money is energy. That if you make a
Mhm.
decision to go do something, that it's going to show up for you in some spectacular way, as long as you let go of that resistance to it takes money to do it.
Mhm.
And and I feel like in a lot of ways, Amber and Rustin were showing that even though it hasn't been perfect and it hasn't been comfortable, they've lived for a year without money. I
Mm.
know that that's what I was showing, without getting comfortable in that energy of not having money per se, because that is where that next cycle can be born. Okay. Like even though we're in this healing old cycles, we also have to recognize that our brains are still programmable. So,
Yeah.
so making sure that you aren't getting like programmed into that, okay, well, this is comfortable. Now it's going to be uncomfortable to have money again. Right. So there's there is that space of recognizing when things are becoming too comfortable. And like the thing that came through to me yesterday was stir things up. Like, are you complacent in your sedentary lifestyle? And I'm just like, maybe, like, comfort, if comfort in the calm. And it's like, well, if you want to stir things up and create, maybe you need a little drama in your life. And I'm like, no, no, drama's too far. However, you know, shaking up the routine, doing something a
Yeah.
little different, like
Yeah.
like those are the things that came to my mind that okay, it's time to explore somewhere else, which we're getting the bearings on the back end of the car, which means we can go a little further. So it's we've found another space to explore minds and that kind of things that once the vehicle is moving and rolling a little better, that we'll find, right? So it's about balance. There's a lot of like coming up with the masculine and feminine energies, that finding a balance within yourself. Um, that belief of worthiness, that, like I said, that was a big one that I recoded this morning. And if you ladies are interested, I'm definitely willing to do that one again because that one made me tingle all over. And then
Mhm.
after you, we kind of get to experience kind of what I've been what I do. Amber's got to experience. We've done the timeline therapies. We've done a little bit of the recode sessions. Like
Mhm.
generally, it's just a way to decode some of that old programming without
Mhm.
having to experience every single trigger. Because yes, there's absolutely a million ways. There's the long way and the fast way, and and sometimes it is uncomfortable to take it through the fast way because you feel like, well, am I going to be missing out? But the best part about this process is it leaves all the lessons. And when the lesson and whatever does get healed comes up again, you can view it from that observer without that emotional tie to it, but you'll still recognize, oh, this was the lesson that I was meant to take from it. But be there as an observer versus like engulfed in that lesson and in that old emotional response. So if you guys are down for it in that
Actually,
last few minutes.
and I need to get on your calendar. I meant to do that this week, so I'm just slapping my wrist for that. But yeah, yeah, we'll figure out a time.
Everything is in perfect timing, right? And that's just it. It's like time, like it was so funny because in my session yesterday, it was she's like, when I was asking what was like going on when I was talking about certain things, she's like, time. She goes, I don't have enough time. And then she looked at me, she goes, that's such a lie. Like I've
That's
changed my life. Time is everything. Like I have tons of it. And
yeah,
so I'm like, so how does this feel to you? I control time and I am never rushed. And she goes, oh, that feels amazing.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
It's about finding like, but if you can find those things without the emotional tie, it makes all the difference because I mean, I don't want to call it a logical state, but it does become a logical state when you come out of the emotion of things. So, all right.
100%. Were you talking about doing it right now? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Are
okay.
you down? Ashley's like, I'll
Yeah.
get on your calendar. I was like, I think she meant right now. What's up, buddy?
No, no, right now. Let's, I'm like, you know what? And it was so funny because I felt like my own, like, this is where I'm like looking at like my own doubt coming up. Like this is so interesting because like it's, there's almost still that fear of being seen because like when I do this, whoever watches this in the replay, do you give yourself the permission um just give yourself permission to me to you can call me Laura or Starla, whatever you want to call me. I go by both now apparently. So uh give yourself permission to accept the healing, give your permission to me to give the healing. And so this is something interesting. You guys can do this with your eyes closed or your eyes open. I do this with my eyes closed because I follow along with the energy. So as you give the permission to self, if you actually are able to see energy, you may actually have like witness to what comes up for you. We are going through this life, past life, familial, ancestral, and genetic traumas that have led to, so this is my intention I'm sharing, that has led to the feeling of lack of worthiness, not being worthy just for being. Curing, we're going to be going through finding all of those moments, fixing the imbalance between the masculine and feminine energies, the doing versus receiving. And this is worthiness in all senses, worthiness of the flow of energy of money, the flow of energy of love, of acceptance. So I'm going to just speak to our higher selves. You can, like I say, follow along in your head or just listen, whatever feels most comfortable to you. This is good through time and space, so you can come back and rewatch this because over time, like I say, if you aren't able to let go of that old identity, sometimes it will retie itself. So higher self, are we together? Oh, yep, there we go. All right, we are going to mark every single moment throughout history, throughout this lifetime, past lifetimes, anything passed down from our families, old beliefs, experiences, sayings, moments in time that have created a feeling of a lack of worthiness in any way, shape, or form. And we are going to go through and we are going to mark every single moment through this lifetime and past lifetimes, through time and space, finding that very root and core moment that created this feeling and belief of not being worthy just for being. So as I talk through this, definitely be aware of any resistance. Resistance can come in the form of tightness in your chest, a twitch in the body, the actual emotion. Don't fight back. If there's tears to come, sneezes, coughs, yawns, let them happen. Don't fight back. It's all natural part of the process of finding and healing all of these moments. And higher self, I want you to continue to mark these until you find that root cause. And as you find that root cause, begin to heal in that perfect plan, in that perfect way. Taking the lesson, keeping the lesson, healing the emotion, and filling that space with love, gratitude, confidence, patience, and marking and healing every single moment. Whether it's this lifetime, past lifetime, we're looking for anything that's been passed down from our family, our ancestors, genetics, parental beliefs, and just continue to heal in that perfect plan, in that perfect way. And anywhere that you find the resistance, heal as fast or as slow as necessary, making it in that perfect time, healing as slow or as quickly as necessary. As you hit the higher resistance, take that extra time, send that extra love, filling that space with gratitude and love and confidence, passion, and knowing that they were all just experiences leading you on this journey meant to elevate you, not deplete you, showing what you do and don't want in life, and to find that you are worthy just for being, despite all of the things that have been said throughout your life. You can breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Just letting out that sigh, allowing that energy to flow. And as some of the major resistance starts to fade, we are going to go back and do a mass rewrite of history, keeping the lesson, shedding the old emotions, filling this with love and compassion, gratitude, faith, trust. Trust that everything happened for you, and knowing that it took you to where you are today, that you now get to live with more knowledge that you are absolutely worthy of everything life has to offer you. Balancing those masculine and feminine energies. And relaxing into this. And this processing can take place a little while after this. It can take you a second to release all of the emotions that come through. Just giving yourself that love and compassion in these moments of letting go. And as we get closer to this present moment, clearing the more recent experiences of feeling unworthy, just giving yourself that extra love and thanking yourself for giving yourself the space to clear this energy and feel this love, and knowing that you are worthy of love, money, passion, happiness, joy, everything life has to offer. You are more than deserving of just the way that you are. And as you come back into the present, just allow the processing to take place at its own perfect timing. And you can wiggle your fingers and toes. And as you feel complete, you can open your eyes or continue to just know that with intention, that if there is any processing still happening in the background as you come on, that you just allow yourself that space to process, and recognize that if any emotion flows through the day, that you're just reaching some of the stuff that is still processing.
I got some throat clearing.
You got some what?
Throat clearing.
Oh, yeah, I choked at the end there. So
No, but I also bleh. I also felt very tingly, like kind of in my, yeah, mostly in my hands. And I thought a couple times that I felt like my eyes were watering, but like I reached up and I didn't feel it, but I think it felt like it. It was really beautiful.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
how do you feel after that?
I feel I felt that there were times when I was contracting. There was some resistance there, and I know that's like deep rooted stuff. So anytime that happened, I just tried to breathe through it and relax, and that was helpful. I think I felt a little like twitch in my nose, like my left nostril, which is quite strange. Um, but that was good. I feel like that's something, maybe not recode, but I definitely need some clearing. Like I feel like this was just the tip of the iceberg, and I need like
Mhm.
a full
So
showering douse of cleansing, whatever.
So the process, my eyes feel like they're watering as well, even though when I touch them, there's nothing there either, which is really interesting. I'm sure if you watch back, like, because I know all of our eyes were closed, but I know that I was doing that like
Yeah.
for a lot of
Yeah.
So doing like when I had the recode done, I hadn't experienced any timeline therapy, and I know you're running. I'll both have to run. So just a little quick explanation of how this went for me. Like that was the process that lifted my pain. However, it wasn't to do with the worthiness. He legit was like, it was more like soul alignment. What do you want for your future? Do the visualization of your desires, and then let's recode to put you into alignment with everything that you desire. At the moment that he did it, I didn't see a future for myself. It was all black. And in that moment, the only thing that flashed through my mind was pain free. And so when he finished that recode, that's exactly what happened, was that pain free. So the intention behind the recode, both on the individual person plus the person that is sharing it, will kind of create the essence of what follows and comes around it. Doing the worthiness definitely doesn't haul on a lot of the other emotions. I know, it's so cute just watching. It looks so much like my kitten. Oh my
I
goodness.
was just thinking that, like a smaller version.
Yep,
Aw.
yep. There's just a kitten version of my kitten that's now 2 years old that I still call Kitten Little, but identical. Looks just
Oh,
Aw. You hear that, Lina?
oh, it's so cute.
He's
But yeah,
yeah.
so the timeline therapies that I learned afterwards, like literally pick out individual emotion. Anger, sadness, and guilt are the three that I generally tend to do. Um, and then I move into the recode. So like if you got into my like how my program is situated, modules 7 and 8 are 2 timeline therapies listed in module 7, and I'm going to add the third one for the guilt. And then the module 8 is a recode, but it's a soul alignment recode. So but when it comes like this morning, like I said, like just the calling this morning was on the worthiness, and how especially coming into the moments as our lives are kind of shifting really fast to where I feel like a lot of stuff is going to be flowing in, just allowing that space for that flow to take place. So
Yeah. I
all
need that.
right.
I
so
need all the
beautiful.
flow I can get.
Right. Yeah, and it came up in the book that we're listening to in my book study in the mornings too. It came up about like the flow, just mentioned in kind of like a different way, and it hasn't like come up a whole lot in these books. And then all of a sudden he was just like, yeah, it's all about the flow, and I was like, of course it is. So
Wow. Well,
all
thank
right.
you so much, Laura, as always. I love you both, and I guess I'll see you on Shannon's call in like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
An hour.
You on
Yeah,
Shannon's call.
An hour.
an hour.